Odin, do you know what kids at school don't recognize anymore? Is
Oh
cable
boy.
television.
Yeah,
And
it's
we're
true.
going to talk about the death of cable here because there's some interesting things going on behind the scenes. I don't know how much of our audience really appreciates the cable era, where basically you used to have just like 5 network TV stations, and then cable came along. Then you could have 100 stations, 300 stations, all with content out the wazoo. So there was never something that wasn't available to watch. And Variety has this really interesting article. In fact, I recommend everyone check it out. Link in the description, where it's talking about NBC Universal's moves in order to spin off a lot of its underperforming cable channels into its own company. And it's kind of funny because they call it something. What's it called? It's like Spinco. Yeah, that's what it is. They're spinning everything off into a company called Spinco. And when I say spinning off, they're talking about the USA Network, uh, like Sci-Fi Channel, MSNBC, all this other stuff. And the article is really interesting because it basically talks about how the entertainment industry rushed into a business model with streaming that didn't have advertising in it. Like the financial revenue model for streaming was really really stupid, and basically they eliminated an entire revenue stream from their business model by devaluing cable in favor of streaming services. And so now they went from two very solid revenue streams into one. And we also talked about the decline of physical media and DVD sales. So that's another revenue stream that basically the entertainment industry has nuked from orbit. And they're basically all these self-inflicted wounds that's causing Hollywood to kind of collapse financially. And this article, it's a very long article, but it's also really interesting because it talks about how some of these lesser known cable channels could potentially be really valuable because like they haven't been sending their stuff to streaming, they haven't been licensing it, because all the revenues that these things make go into like bigger things within the company. So like for instance, NBC News, they have MSNBC and all these other things, and all the profits from those things actually go into the news network. And so now that they're being spun off, these news networks now no longer have the financial support or resources of NBC News. And so basically they're a little bit leaner, and they're going to be getting rid of a lot of like the talent that's been getting these like big contracts and stuff like that. But Tom, I want to throw this to you first and foremost, because I want to hear your take on the idea that what this article basically says is that the big studios are just managing the decline of cable, and they don't have any real plans to replace it. So what's your take on that?
Well, that's what streaming should have been, right? Like from the beginning, from the get go, that should have been their goal. Was like, instead of trying to kill theaters, they should have been like, fuck this cable shit. Let's kill that with streaming. Because I've said it time and time again, Disney Plus shouldn't be like the hub for everything Disney. It should have just basically been the Disney Channel 2.0, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything they used to do for the Disney Channel should just carry it over to Disney Plus. Because just recently, even in their call they had last week, they're spending billions to only make a few $100 million on streaming at best, right? When the home video industry is still multi-billion-dollar, right? Even Disney alone still makes more than $1 billion on home video. It's like you're looking at it going, why are you spending all this money over here to make nothing? It makes absolutely no sense. And the problem is because they're spending the amount of money they would normally spend for productions that go into theaters on their streaming shows. And as if they just budgeted the crap that's on their streamer and just carried over all their old television content, then it would make more sense. Having all their movies on there at once is stupid. We've said that a million times before. It takes away the value of their movies, especially when you got movies like Bambi right next to Bambi 2, or Pinocchio and all the other films right next to their straight-to-video crap, or, their other films that didn't do any good. It lessens the value of those former Vault classics. And that Vault used to be huge for Disney because every 7 years they'd release those movies on home video, and everybody would go get them because they'd be like, well, if I don't get it now, I'm not going to get it. And I've brought this up before, where movies like The Lion King have technically made more money on home video. In some cases, you probably look at it, probably almost twice as much now, I bet, with DVD and Blu-ray now added into the mix. But even on just straight VHS at the time, they did more sales in VHS than they did in theaters. And The Lion King is Disney's highest grossing animated film of all time. without inflation and all that business. But anyhow, and I'm sure even with inflation, it's still probably up there. So like, yeah, this whole thing made no sense for nobody. They're the underwear gnomes in this whole situation. The cable companies are going to the thing that they have going against them is when you have cable, you're stuck into a contract, right? So they had people for a while, and now a lot of those people's contracts are coming up. My parents were one of those people. They moved on to Dish and other things. I know other people who've just completely cut off their cable or Dish and just gone straight to streaming at this point. Because most people don't have the time of day to give a shit about those little channels that are out there that have a few little shows on them, because they have a hard enough time trying to find Cobra Kai and everything else they want to watch now, right? Because if you want to watch certain movies and TV shows, it's almost like a streaming war now, as we pointed out before, because you got to go to each and every one of their individual places. If you want something from NBC, you got to go to Peacock. You want something from Disney or ABC, you got to go to Disney Plus. If you want something from, Warner Brothers, you got to go to HBO Max. Like it's Paramount Plus. Same thing with CBS. It's Paramount Plus. So all these things, it's all their own separate thing now, and it's like we're spending more on all these put together. But the best part about these streamers and that people can do is they can have one month, shut it off, go to the next one. Watch their shit for 1 month, go to the next one, next one. That's what I do with Netflix. I only have Netflix
Mhm.
when certain things are on that I care about. Other than that, I cancel it, especially for that price. Screw that. And
Yeah,
Disney's just as bad because now they're forcing you to watch ads.
Yeah, Tom, what's interesting is that there's a stat in this article that says that at the peak of cable adoption, I think it was up to like 89% of all households in the United States had cable, right? And nowadays it's down to like 67% or something like that. So like it's basically everyone in the entertainment industry and in Wall Street is basically just saying like, yeah, like this is irreversible. People are just going to like habits are changing. Younger generations never subscribe to cable. Like, they're all about YouTube and stuff like that. John, I want to ask you because I know that where you live, there's the BBC, and it's just like three channels. Like that's all the
Yeah.
options that you guys have. Do you have anything that you want to talk about in terms of like how the decline of cable could affect Hollywood in general, or um, in addition to like the adoption of YouTube, where basically like YouTube has supplanted cable in many households?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've got the BBC, we've also got Sky, and we've got Virgin. I've got Virgin here, um, and just to sort of come on to kind of what Tom was saying, but a few years ago, everyone was raving about the fact, oh, I'm just going to cancel my cable or Sky package, when it expires, and I'll get that app and I'll get this app. Now they're finding that when you total up those apps individually, those individual apps, it's probably costing you equivalent to what you're paying on your cable package in the UK anyway. So people are now starting to get more wiser to it, and they're doing what Tom was saying he does, where they'll go, right, I want to watch that show on Netflix. After that, I'll cancel it, and then that'll be gone. I think with regards to cable being in decline, it's definitely happening over here. I think we've got Virgin in the house, and there's very little content on there now, unless you go to YouTube or you go to Netflix. I mean, in our household, the bulk of the stuff is watched on Netflix, YouTube now, or Netflix. The BBC, I mean, let's be honest, BBC's atrocious now, so I wouldn't go there if you force me to. It's just that bad. They've also got, with Sky. Sky's got Sky Movies at the moment, and they've got deals in place with a lot of the with the studios, but they're coming to an end at the end of the year. So I think you'll find a lot of the movies that Sky were getting as exclusives and programs will suddenly flip to the streaming services. But there's no doubt in the UK that people I talk to, more people are watching YouTube now than they are watching shows on the streaming apps, or watching cable, or watching Sky. It's really shifted in the last few years. But again, it's no good quality.
I'm one of those people where I'm look, between me and my wife, we spend way too much money on things to put on screens in front of us on our wall. She is absolutely a dead set somehow for some reason against converting to all streaming, and yet we both like to watch sports and stuff. The main reason I keep the cable It's because I like to watch hockey. I like to watch our local team, the Golden Knights, here on TV. But one thing I am learning, and I think this is something that is going to start probably changing the face of sports, is that I learned just yesterday by listening to the radio that if the Dallas Stars, NHL hockey team, they have an app now that they put all of their games on, and they give out for free. This is a brand new thing they just started this year. So if you're a Dallas Stars fan, you can get this app and you can watch all the games. You can just push a button and it's going to stream it from your phone to your television set, and you can watch your hockey game on the TV. Now, if all these sports teams start doing something like that, if I can go get the Golden Knights hockey app and watch all their games on television, there is no reason for me, period, to have cable TV. I'll go get a freaking one of those antennas to get the local news and stuff, and watch my hockey that way. And then I'm getting ready to we had football. We had football mainly because my mother-in-law, who recently passed away, was a huge football fan. We wanted her to be able to watch whatever television she wanted. But me and my wife, we're going to have to sit down here in the next week or two and go, okay, what do we want? Do we need cable anymore? We have Cox cable here, but I use it mostly for the internet. That's what we have my internet connection for. So, and I recently have turned off Disney Plus and Hulu because I just didn't watch them. But I want to take that money, and I think I want to turn on YouTube Premium, so I don't have to watch all the stupid ads now. So I'm trying to go back and forth and see what I need to do. Then I'm going to talk to Alex and go, hey, you want to share an account for this thing, and maybe we can, do some finagling and save a little bit of money here and there that way. And the whole system is whacked out, I guess, basically is what I'm trying to say. They don't make it easy, but I think there's ways for us to go out there and take advantage of different ways to get our entertainment to where we're not just shelling out money like crazy to every Tom, Dick, and Harry with a channel. But
yeah, and the people, Dutch, the people running these spin-offs with all these like kind of declining cable channels, part of their strategy to kind of like survive is to do live sports and create their own streaming apps that are ad supported and stuff like that. But Alex, I want to talk to you about a lot of these cable networks, or I should say studios that run these like vast cable networks. They're not afraid to basically turn off or cancel underperforming channels. So like, for instance, Esquire Channel, Clue, Sleuth, G4, NBC Sports Network, the Universal Kids. These were all cable channels that weren't making enough money, and so they got axed. But I just wonder in this day and age, because you yourself, you said that you're part of the generation that didn't have cable, just watched stuff on YouTube. Part of me wonders, it's like, why don't they just move their become content producers and license out their content to like Netflix, and then like just have like a YouTube channel and get money off the ads there?
Yeah. So just to clarify, I grew up with cable as a kid in my parents' house, but as soon as I was one of the first people to have Netflix. I think I had Netflix in like 2007, like back when you got the DVDs in the mail and you had to like ship them back and forth. Like I believed in what Netflix represented like way back. And when I moved out when I was 19, I never ever got satellite, cable, none of that shit. It was streaming services like Netflix, which I think was one of the only ones that existed back then, or I would just go down to the video store, which we still had video stores here in Vegas, where across the street from my apartment where I first moved. I'd go to the video store across the street and go grab a movie or something like that and come home and watch it. This whole thing with the streaming service is pure greed. And it's so much greed that it's going to end up costing them money, which is it's weird because they're so desperate to get that subscription. Like, oh, we want that monthly subscription. But then they're producing all of this stuff, all these shows that nobody's watching for millions upon millions upon millions of dollars.
Mostly shit.
And nobody's watching it because it's mostly shit and nobody wants to pay for freaking 7 subscriptions. So I think like you're spot on. I think you hit the nail on the head is like what they need to do is a bunch of these people that used to just be producers of content, like WB, with the HBO and all these studios, they need to go back to just making decent products and then selling the license to the streaming services that have stood the test of time, basically things like Netflix and Amazon Video and stuff like that. These people that have like Disney has their own streaming service and Peacock has their own streaming service and Paramount Plus, fuck all that. Just make your movies and then sell the license. Make the movies for cheaper. You don't need to spend $250 million on a freaking movie that's going to get 500,000 views. You know what I mean? Like make cheaper movies. Go ahead, Dutch. What's up?
I don't mean to interrupt you, but they had the fucking Super Bowl on Tubi this year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tubi.
That's how I watched it.
That's how I watched it. Yeah.
That's
Well,
crazy.
and that's the kind of stuff that's making my dad get away from cable and satellite, right? Like he would be a diehard if it wasn't for that kind of crap, and he hates it. He's pissed about it, but it's basically forcing him to move on. So now he's got some digital service that I don't really think is all that great, but whatever, he's happy with it. That's a streaming cable setup deal. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, and the Super Bowl being on Tubi this year, he griped about, because I do know you have a super chat that kind of addresses this about boomers keeping cable alive, and that's only going to last as long as some of these boomers are still alive.
Sure.
Yeah.
And not only that, some of them are being forced, like my dad being 60-some, almost 70 years old.
Well,
And being forced to switch over to internet stuff.
I want to throw this to Odin because Odin, this seems to be just in a comedy of errors, yet another self-inflicted wound by the entertainment industry. So they basically nuked the theater chains, right? By going direct to streaming. They nuked the DVD market, and now they're nuking the cable market. It's almost like they're trying to commit seppuku and kill themselves slowly over time. Why do you think the people in Hollywood are so stupid that they can't see that they're basically destroying all their revenue streams?
They're also, you could argue, destroying the streaming market too. So it's like they have almost got to the point now where their revenue streams are starting to ever shrink. And so hopefully they start to, open up to the fact that they need to start to revisit some of these, more quote antiquated revenue streams, because soon they're not going to have anything left. But yeah, I mean, I know that when it comes to the cable side of things, right, it is definitely a dying package, dying industry. But I do agree the boomers are definitely keeping it alive. But it's also, they know how to keep the boomers in. Like, they know how to keep it from them canceling. Because I mention it to my parents all the time. I'm like, why do y'all still have, Cox Cable? Why are y'all still using these things? And they'll list all the different things that they enjoy about it. But the other thing that always comes up is that my mom will say, it's like, well, actually, every time I call to mention anything, I get a discount. And that's how they keep them in, because basically, if you call to cancel cable, if you call to cancel internet or anything like that, they will give you like massive discount to keep you on.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I got to say this. So last week I was on the show and I said I'm canceling Disney Plus.
That's right. Yeah.
So I did. I went in right after the show. I canceled Disney Plus, and I go, cancel my subscription, please. And I pushed a button, and they're saying, "Are you sure you want to go? We'd really like to see you stay." And then the next button is cancel your cancellation or cancel. So you push cancel again. And then they go, are you really, really super duper sure you want to stay? And you say, yes, get me the fuck out of here. I don't want your stupid channel. So you push the cancel button again. The third screen, I'm not even lying. The third screen is, look, we really, really want you to stay. We'll give you all the channels the Disney channels have that you want for only $6.99 a month for the next 3 months if you stay and stick around, and you get your it was the package thing. And I'm like, at that one, I'm like, $6.99? I can get my stuff for $6.99 a month. And I said, no, fuck you. And I pushed cancel. And then finally, after 4 times of pushing the cancel button, I finally got out and they canceled my subscription. But they do. They really want you to stay. It was $6.99 for 3 months, and then it went back to the original price. So my question is, if you do the $6.99 a month for 3 months, and you go back to the original pay, and you push cancel again, are you going to get the $6.99 a month deal again afterward? Yeah. So basically, you can just do $6.99 a month for the Hulu Disney ESPN package. I mean, that's crazy.
It would
That's
surprise
crazy.
me because they
Yeah,
would
I
do
was-
anything
I-
just as long as they've got you, as long as they've got a payment, as long as they're getting even just a
Right.
few dollars from you. I mean, you got to think about how overpriced a lot of these subscription services probably are.
Mhm.
They can easily afford to
Yeah.
offer it at a less rate. It is better for them to have 20 people paying half the rate than to lose those 20 people altogether. So
It
they
is
would
for
much
now
rather
at least because
Yeah,
they're still
yeah,
making
yeah.
a little bit of money. But that was the point I was getting at, Odin.
Mhm.
And like with the amount of money that they're still like, and they would be making God knows how much more money on physical media if you actually could find it anywhere, right? Like
Mhm.
that's the thing. And they almost kind of semi admitted defeat on trying to end physical media too soon. They didn't say, "Oh, we're going to revamp and restructure and come back, with more physical media." No, they said they signed a deal with Sony, and that was basically them saying, "Yeah, we conceded and said we can't dump physical media yet. We can't afford it." Well, no, you can't afford it when you're spending billions of dollars on streaming, as I said before, and literally only making like $200-300 million is really all they've cleared a
Well,
year
you know
in a year.
who can't afford it, Tom? Our super chatters.
Oh,
We got Shorty Short for $1.99. I
Well, this is
work
what I
for a
was
cable
referring to,
provider.
Mhm.
Boomers are saving cable.
Mhm.
So you hear that, Dutch Butters? You single-handedly
He's
are
not a
saving
boomer.
Well,
He's a Gen
but you
Xer.
know,
My parents are. I can say that.
I'm not
for
a
sure.
boomer, but yeah, you're not wrong. But we're gonna have to make some decisions here very soon because I have no use for cable TV anymore. I really don't. Other than we have the package together with my internet. So I don't know. I guess I'll just have to like go to Cox and go, "Hey, I just want your internet." But then they're gonna go, "Well, we'll give you the cable deal for only $19.99 a month for your tier 1 or some shit." My wife will go, "Oh, that sounds like a good deal." And then 3 months later it's $120 and you're not thinking about it. So I don't know.
I don't know what you guys think about cable in the US, but certainly in the UK as well, and this is part of it, that the actual tech has really gone downhill in the last sort of 5-10 years. I mean, it used to be a time you get a new box, but it's a reconfigured, rebuilt box you get from Virgin these days. If they're coming out to do your subscription, and half the time it will just crash, and it will take you 10-15 minutes to get it back up when you're trying to watch something, and you'll be like, and then all of a sudden it goes, "Thank you, we've done the update," and it's like, but it doesn't tell you it's doing an update. It just crashes the whole system to do the update because it's just not built to do that. It's really clunky stuff. So I don't know if it's the same in the US, but the tech is just not up to par.
We've hit a problem in the US, especially with at least broadcasting, is that unless you're pretty much streaming through some sort of high-powered cable system, most channels are at 720p tops as far as quality-wise, because they just can't pump the amount. Like 4K television will never be a thing, probably. Not for the next 10, 20, 30 years at least. And even then, it'll be mostly streaming already anyway, so we won't have noticed it, right? It'll come in
4K.
sooner. Yeah, it'll be 4K. Like it'll start with like football games, and because they did do the Olympics broadcast in 8K, but only like 5 TVs in the whole planet can play it. But yeah.
Highly compressed.